Okay, we are live. You can go, Gilbert.
Okay, join palms.
Okay, we are live.
And bow. Four great vows. I vow to deliver innumerable sentient beings. I vow to cut off endless vexations. I vow to master limitless approaches to Dharma. I vow to attain supreme Buddhahood. 1 second here. Restore to gallery. Okay, hello to you all. Tonight's class is going to be one that is in response to a question that appeared on the Mindwork forum in terms of someone's experience that they had and that they had been trying to come back to that experience and kind of recapture the magic of that moment when they, in their own words, shattered through. And they had not been able to do that. And evidently the person who was writing the question was the friend of the person that had that experience, and he wanted to have this answered by me. And the idea here is that we may have some kinds of experiences along the way. And we may have more than one kind of an experience as it goes along. But if we hold on to those experiences, it's very difficult to make progress. There's only one thing worse than that, and that's that having no experience or no kind of a shattering, but to wish or want for something, some kind of an extrasensory perception, meeting the Buddha face to face, whatever it is, something that indicates that we have arrived or at least gotten part of the way there. All of these things are very, very difficult because even if we assume that there was in fact this kind of an experience that the person had, this shattering, I'm not sure what shattered in terms of that, how long it lasted or whatever. But it's very easy for us to mistake simply a samadhi experience for this kind of a shattering. And so what I wanted to talk about is that one, the idea that we hold on to, that we want to have some experience. And then the other one is that once having an experience, then we try to recreate that. But there isn't any real rules in terms of how things happen or what kinds of realizations one can have. Sometimes one can have a realization just simply from reading something and arriving at some form of a greater understanding as to what's the Dharma is, and that it provides for greater insight. That's not bad. Other times it could be something very shallow where we sit on a cushion and the leg pain goes away. Not bad. That's better than having leg pain. But is it something that is a profound experience? Perhaps not, but it's something that isn't bad as long as we don't hold on to it. The moment we hold on to it or seek where we're at before, then we run into problems in terms of sitting to meditate. And to some of you who have been meditating before and had some experiences, then you kind of understand what I'm mentioning to you, that you kind of try to retrace your steps and want to get that same experience. But realizations come in many different manners. Again, some of them are just an understanding of how things work. Others can be some experiences. Others can be something as profound as using the sword of wisdom to slice a hole in the sky. And you go, well, what is that? Slicing a hole in the sky or a slit in the sky? What could that be like to do that? But from this side, we could never know that. We could posit about it and say, I think it would be this way. And it would be maybe if I slit a slice in the sky, that reality, true reality, would pour in this moment. Or it could be that the air will go out of this bubble and the bubble will collapse. We know that these are just imaginations of things that we imagine. How could that be? Because if we try to slice into the reality, and again, we're slicing into the sky, what could possibly be there by slicing into the sky? Yet the masters say that you have to use the sword of wisdom, to slice through the sky. What could be on the other side? And it is this kind of an imagining that keeps us from being able to get to that point. But we try very hard, especially some of you go to many, many retreats, hoping to get this kind of an experience. And even if you get just a little bit, you get excited about it and you mess the whole thing up. Some of you go and you don't get anything, and you get frustrated. And you go, what is this? Because I've been practicing all this time and I haven't gotten anything. But then again, that is part of the problem, because of the fact that you are clinging to this idea that you have to validate all of this time and effort that you practice by having some kind of an experience. And even more importantly, a shattering experience. What would that be like to have a shattering experience? Would that be like you were all around you, that the world would shatter like a pane of glass? And then what? What would that be? Again, we can imagine about it, but we really cannot see that. But therein lies the problem, because when we try to imagine about these things, then we end up just using our ordinary mind to see this, even though our ordinary mind is the Buddha mind. We don't pay attention to it. We just ignore it. And we aren't satisfied with this mind that we have. What's wrong with it? It's ordinary. It suffers. It has opinions. It looks at things. It doesn't like some kinds of food, shadofu, stinky tofu. It wants candy or donuts or sweets. It wants touch. We don't see that this mind that we're using, this very mind that we're using, is the only mind we have. Yet we want something special, some special mind with some shattering experiences. And so we're always looking for it, going to the retreats. Instead of sitting there and meditating, we're like this. It must be coming soon. It must be coming. I'll just sit. What was that? Was that something? Did I not think for a moment? Well, then who's thinking now? Oh, it's just this mind again. I wish you'd stop thinking mind, but it's your mind. It is the very mind that you have, the only mind you have. It is your true nature. But you don't understand that. You trade your true nature for some kind of cheap experience and then walk around with this cheap experience and you're holding it. Look what I got. What did you get? What did you get? I got a shattering experience. Really? Yeah. What happened? I don't know. One moment I was there and I was holding my breath and then I passed out. Or whatever it was, I saw lights, colored lights. You want to see lights? Just go outside. It's Christmas time. You'll see plenty of colored lights all over the place. But we equate the idea of some awakening with some fantastic situation or experience, or that you are riding some kind of a magic carpet across the universe. And we ignore this ordinary mind that we have. We don't understand that. Master Ling Chi says we proceed to cut off our head and then begin to look for our head. It doesn't make any sense. So we have to start from certain premises in terms of things, and this is called right view. Right view is just this very mind that you're using right now. This very mind is the Buddha mind. There is no mind aside from this. There is no fantastic mind. This mind, if one practices sincerely, will in fact have some experiences will happen to it. But if we get an experience, we mess it all up. We want to collect all of the money right then and there. It's like you were picking some fruit from a tree, and you get one peach, and then you want to go and cash it in, ignoring all the other fruits on the tree. It doesn't make sense, but that's the way we do that, and we hold onto this peach. Oh, this wonderful peach. It was shattering. Look at this peach. It shattered everything. And then as you're holding on to the peach, you start saying, hey, this peach is getting a little soft. It doesn't have that wonderful color anymore. It's a little bit brown. Doesn't smell any very well either. I don't think I want a new peach. How am I going to get the new peach? But this is how people practice. I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand if you've done this before, but this is how people practice. They're looking for some kind of an experience. And not only that, but we encourage that. The well-known advisors say, sit there, like as if you were some kind of a stew that was going to be made. And you sit there and don't think, and something maybe magical will happen to you. Maybe you're the lucky one, the one with the magic ticket. Did you get the golden ticket? No. Maybe next time I'll get it. And with this kind of an attitude, you're far from it. Once there was a young monk that had his master had confirmed his realization, and the other monks, the young monks, they all ran to him, going, "Monk, the master said you had got a realization. How do you feel?" And he just said, "As miserable as ever." And you go, "What? What do you mean as miserable as ever?" Well, he didn't disappear. His body's still here. He's still, in the monastery. And it is in this way. And it's very interesting because this story was one that was also repeated by Master Sheng from the Thousand Buddha Temple. He's passed away now. And Guanxin Master from Taiwan. Guanxin Master at that point was nearing about 120 years old. So he was just about finished with his life. And they had this dialogue where Master Shenhua asked him, "How do you feel?" And Master Guanxin said, "How do you think a 120-year-old man would feel? Think about it. Some of you are getting on in age. Some of you are young. You still have a lot of suppleness in your body. Some of you, you need oil to start you up in the morning, like the Tin Man, to get moving. So what can you imagine a 120-year-old man? How does he feel?" I feel young. I feel like I'm 100 years old. Well, that's pretty old still, right? Well, 20 years younger than 120. But when Master Shenhua said, "But you are a great master. How could you feel this way?" And Guanxin Master said, "How would you expect me to feel? This body is old. It's going to feel old. It's natural in this way." He didn't ask about his mind. He was asking about his body. The body that we have, it cannot experience the idea of an enlightenment. It doesn't know of these things. Master Ling Chi had said, "Let your liver teach you the Dharma." Can your liver teach you the Dharma, or your lungs listen to the Dharma? No, they can't. You cannot find your mind in those things. It is just this very mind that we have. But we turn our backs on it in search of this special mind. The reason that I'm talking to you about this in this way is because if you proceed in the other way, even if you get a realization, you will waste it. You will not be able to understand it. And you will hold on to it and then try to mimic it again. But it was just this one time that something happened. There's many, many times. They say there's 84,000 Dharma doors to go through. And it's true, there's 84,000 ways to realizations, to mind. Every moment presents a Dharma door. We don't see it because we're looking for the golden ticket. We're looking for that shattering event. But when we look in this way and we try to see things that are shattering, unfortunately, this makes such a difficult time for us. We cannot locate that because it is not in something that's conceptual. It is just mind itself. We don't trust that. We don't trust the Dharma. We don't trust the sutras or the ancient masters that tell you just this mind. We want to find that thing that defines us, that tells us that we made it this far, that it was okay that we've been digging this trench for so many years. It will pay off. We never realize how long the trench is. We don't see that. We're just trying to arrive at some place. And it's difficult. People, they can get an experience and then they think very highly of themselves. But something very interesting about that is that people, when they get an experience like that, they don't want to talk to others about it. Or they don't want to talk to well-known advisors about it, because then it might turn out that their experience wasn't that good. Like Master Boshan said, not yet. But they don't want to hear that. They had some fantastical experience. They don't want to hear the truth. So they continue on and with the charade. Even if it was an experience, it doesn't mean that they had reached some form of great realization. It might just simply have been that they arrived at a deep samadhi. But that is not in it of itself a deep realization. It's just a quieting of the mind. We don't understand it because we don't experience it. We're happy if we can get some kind of a quieting in the mind. We equate that with that this is really mine. But it isn't in this way. I know it seems like I keep hitting this, but it's important because when we talk about this and talk about right view, I never talk to you about that you have to get this earth-shattering experience. I don't talk to you in this way. Sometimes when we talk about Hua Toes and we talk about shattering the great doubt, we begin to conjure up images as to what that shattering would be like. And so we comport our mind with that kind of an image. And then once we get into a deep samadhi, voila, a self-fulfilling prophecy, everything is shattered. Isn't necessarily bad. What's bad is holding on to it or seeking to replicate it. If you really want to replicate that, you do what you did to get there. If you could do what you did to get there, then it doesn't matter whether you get it or not. At least you know that that was what enabled you to produce this kind of a samadhi or an experience. But you don't have to try to get back to the same place. People do that all the time, and they spend years trying to get back to this experience. It's a little tiny, tiny experience. And you go, shucks. Gilbert, he's like really disappointing me. I was expecting I'm going to get something, and I thought I was at the 9th bhumi, at least the 8th bhumi, and he's telling me I'm not there, not yet. But Master Boshan's master, when he told Master Boshan that, it was the kindest thing he could ever tell him. Not yet. No expectation. No matter what comes, what experiences come to you, you let them go. Master Shen Wang talked about this before. And he was talking, especially, I think it was in his commentaries on the Shurangama Sutra, where he was talking about that there's times when the mind can be perceived to be teaching you. And it can be teaching you in your dreams. Or when you're sleeping. I shouldn't say in your dreams, but when you're sleeping. Or it may give you some kind of an experience or whatever. And he said, this is your very own mind. Your very own mind, because it's calm and relaxed when you're sleeping. It enables you to absorb what was being studied and be able to see the profoundness of what was there. Not bad. Not bad. But he says, this is not enlightenment. It is just a natural function of the mind. This is something that I've experienced, but I don't hold on to it like it's something very important or some great realization, because I read Master Shen Hua and I understand, just let it go. All of these kinds of experiences like this, where things are being revealed, it's a natural course of the mind losing its opaqueness, being replaced by wisdom. We need this mind that we have right now. We don't want to lose it. Don't lose your mind. Don't go cuckoo. But you can. You can go cuckoo. You think, are you telling me that sitting in meditation I can go cuckoo? Some people can. Some people, if they get an experience, they can go cuckoo. They can go off the path. And they run into experiences that all of a sudden, for instance, they can tell people's fortune. So would you like to tell people's fortunes? Would you like to have that kind of a power to tell people's fortunes? It's not something that's great, and it's more of a liability than it is anything else. You can't go around and say, you're going to die in a year, or this is going to happen to you, or your husband, wife, dog is going to leave you, or whatever. This is not so great to have that kind of a thing, but some people, they become enamored with this kind of a skill. In actuality, this kind of a fortune-telling skill set is very low level, but to people, they think, wow, this is good. This guy's a master. He can tell people's fortunes. Once there was a story of this one Tibetan Lama that had this ability to tell people's fortunes. And he developed quite a big entourage of people that were following him because he could tell fortunes. It's very easy to tell fortunes. All you have to do is just think of all of what you've been doing, where you're at right now, and the direction you're traveling, and voila, you can see what's going to happen next. It's simple, but we don't see those things. We don't see that that's causes and conditions. But one can derive a skill like that. And then when they derive that skill, this particular Lama, he stopped right there. He entered into a demonic state. It's called the demonic state from the Shurangama Sutra, the volume 8, not because he's vexed by demons. He's vexed by the demons of his own mind and clinging to that and not practicing, not sincerely practicing anymore, just caught up with his own self-importance. And this one particular Lama, he took an interest in trying to convince my former wife to become one of his entourage. And I told her, this guy is off the path, like way, way off the path. You know, be very careful with this person. So one day, I was at work and I went, and I called up my wife and I said, this Lama, he's coming to the house today. And she said, yes, he just called and he said he's going to come to the house. I go, I will be there. So I was there at the house and he arrived before me and his entourage was outside the house. They couldn't enter my house, they say, because there was too many demonic forces around the house. And then what happened was that in that moment, when he came in our living room, we had an altar with all of the Buddhist statues on it. And he pointed to the altar and he told my wife, all of these statues, they have a demon inside of them. You should not give any devotion to these statues, and you should stop reading the sutras. And when she translated to me what he said, I just smiled and I said, do you need any more evidence about this person? Here was a practitioner that entered into a demonic state because he was craving this kind of a extrasensory type thing. And he literally went off completely and convinced the people around him that he was so great because he could tell fortune. Again, telling a fortune is not a high level skill. But if you've never seen it, then you would think it is a high level skill. But this is what they say, entering into demonic state. So people can get an experience, and if they hold on to it, show it to people. I mean, just show it to people for the sake of showing it to people, for them, especially for them to hold them up into some great esteem. It's very, very bad. The experiences themselves, they're not the harm. The experiences are naturally occurring. If you practice something very seriously, let's say if you were young and you practiced gymnastics since you were a little child, you're going to be good at gymnastics to the limitation of your own body type and whatever. But you still will excel at that. When we practice sincerely Buddha Dharma, we begin to excel at it. We begin to know the quotes from the ancient masters, the quotes from the sutras. We are a treasury of this information, not in an intellectual way, but in a way from our own compassion that we want to share with others. And this is why we study, not for the sake of acquiring anything, but for the sake of offering to others this great wisdom. This wisdom is not our wisdom. It's the profound wisdom of the sutras of the Buddha. And we offer this wisdom freely. They're not bad. We don't practice for the sake of people holding you up to great adulation. Master Ling Chi said, don't hold up the master to such a high level, say, I could never get there. You can. You can get there and you can practice. And when you practice sincerely, then there's no difference. Little by little, you will get there. And little by little, you will get extrasensory capacities, some more than others. But perhaps at least we have the ability to hold our tongue and not say something stupid or harmful to people. That's a pretty good skill. That's probably one of the best skills right there, because it has to do with speech. Very powerful skill. When we see things in this way, we put it in the proper perspective. We don't have to go, oh, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to feel this. I don't want to see this. It just comes with the territory. All of a sudden, you'll be able to have some abilities, but you don't sit there and use them like a parlor trick. Then you become like that Lama who went way off the path, to the point where now he truly was in the demonic state, where he was influenced by demons to say the opposite, don't pray to this altar, don't give devotion, don't read the sutras. How much further are you off? And you can't see it. The reason I tell you the story is because this Lama was well-intentioned to practice, but he was weak. And as a result of that, and he didn't have a well-known advisor to kick him in the backside and tell him, what the heck are you doing? You cannot be this way. Stop doing that. No. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. So as a result, I don't know what happened to the person, but it's something that was very regrettable because of the fact that he had developed this skill, but he thought it to be something of great self-importance, which it wasn't. But when we practice, these things will come. But when we experience it, even if it's just something very simple, let it go. Let it go right away. Don't hold on to it. If you need it and you can use it for some benefit, you can do that. But don't show, hey, what I can do is, I can see this and this and this is going to happen to you, or whatever, just so that the people will be impressed with you. But if you can see things and you see them and you are clear of these things, this isn't necessarily bad, but you don't hang a shingle and say, no, I'm extraordinary at doing this, or traveling from one place to another, or to hear the voices from a distance, or to travel to some place and see what's happening somewhere else. All of these things that the Shurangama Sutra talks about, but we let those things go. We don't need them. We just practice. This is a little bit different one from the ones I've been teaching you, because I felt, well, from the questions I was getting on mind work, I realized that I kind of need to circle back to this and talk to you about this and say, okay, what are we doing here? What are these experiences? And do we need these experiences? No, we don't need them. We don't need these experiences. If they come, they come. Even when they come, we let them go. We just keep practicing, practice sincerely, practice mind all the time, practice mind, keeping the mind clear, staying awake. That is very powerful. That is powerful. Can you keep your mind stable for 10 seconds? And here we're talking about all these great skills of things to do, and we don't even have the ability to keep our mind stable. We have to sit and meditate to try to do that. Why can't you do it in your everyday life? This is the true practice, the true value, the true wisdom, because if you practice it and keeping your mind stable in your everyday life, that is power. That is great power, great insight. The power has nothing to do with you. It is the power of changing your environment, the power of changing the people around you, not impressing them with parlor tricks, but calming everyone down, using wisdom and insight and letting them borrow that wisdom and insight. It's not bad. Before, when I used to practice the Qigong, a lot of the masters, they would hide their skills. They didn't want to show it too much because they were afraid people were going to copy it, or they're going to find out how to do it. And then they would not be so powerful looking or impressive. To me, I used to always say, hey, you want to learn this? Let me show you how to do this. You do this and this and this and this. And I would freely offer it. It was a precursor to me now as a presenter of the Dharma, where I freely offer all of this. And understanding the power of the time, which is very interesting, the power of giving our time to others, the time to practice, to bring them into the practice. All of these things are very, very important. We should not be looking for this earth-shattering experience and trying to replicate it, and then wondering why we can't repeat it. It is very regrettable if we practice in this way. And it's, in some ways, it's very pitiable that the person up to this point has not had a well-known advisor to tell them, stop, don't do that. Don't do that. Even if it was some kind of an experience, it's not that important now. You can't cash it in. It is just you working from this foundation. I want to read to you a little bit of the sutra, since I've been talking about it, from the 8th volume of the Shurangama Sutra. And this was the Buddha speaking to Ananda in the assembly. And he said, those of you with more to learn, those enlightened by conditions, and those who are hearers, have now turned your minds to pursue attainment of supreme bodhi, the unsurpassed wonderful enlightenment. I have already taught you the true method of cultivation. You are still not aware of the subtle demonic events that can occur when you cultivate samatha and vipassana. So this is concentration and insight. So he's saying these very subtle things there, because you're going deep now, deep into mind, where you haven't been before. You don't have experience about this. You cannot recognize a demonic state when it appears. It is because the cleansing of your mind has not been proper. You will then be engulfed with deviant views. You may be troubled by a demon from your own skandhas, form, sensation, perception, volition, and consciousness, or a demon from heaven, or you may be possessed by a ghost or a spirit, or you may encounter a Lee ghost or a May ghost. If your mind is not clear, you'll mistake the thief for your own son. And here the thief is just the idea of the self. It is also possible, and this is kind of an interesting part. Let me go back up where it says you mistake the thief for your own son. He's speaking to you as a Buddha mind. And the thief is the idea of the illusory self, and saying, you think that this is your son, but it's not. It is just an illusion. It is also possible to feel satisfied after a small accomplishment, like the unlearned bhikshu who reached for the fourth dhyana and claimed that he had realized sagehood. When his celestial reward ended and the signs of decay appeared, he slandered the arhatship as being subject to birth and death, and thus he fell into a viki hell. So a viki hell is very low hell that you would get to if you did something that was very harmful to the practice or to great practitioners. You should pay attention. I will now explain to you this in detail. Ananda stood up with the others in the assembly who had more to learn, bowed joyfully. They quieted themselves in order to listen to the compassionate instruction. The Buddha told Ananda and the whole assembly, you should know that the 12 categories of beings in the world of outflows are endowed with this wonderfully bright, fundamental enlightenment. The enlightened, perfect substance of mind, which is not different from that of the Buddhas in the 10 directions. So here again, he's espousing ekayana, just mind, that you already possess mind. Due to the fault of false thinking and confusion about the truth, infatuation arises and makes your confusion all pervasive. Consequently, the emptiness appears. Worlds come into being as that confusion is ceaselessly transformed. Therefore, the lands that are not without outflows, as numerous as the motes of dust throughout the 10 directions, are all created as a result of this confusion, dullness, and false thinking. He's saying that all of these, they're created by the mind. Your mind is the Buddha mind that is creating this. We don't understand that. We want to throw this mind out. Then where would we be? We would be mindless. But he's talking about spacelessness. Remember, we talked about that last week. What is spacelessness? Listen to what he's saying here. He says, consequently, emptiness appears, worlds come into being as confusion is ceaselessly transformed. So, and he's saying that as numerous as the motes of dust throughout the 10 directions. So we've talked about that it's not the space between things, but the lack of space, the spacelessness. But here, in the confusion in the mind, we create subject object, we create these worlds. Without this kind of a creation, these worlds do not exist. They're all a dream. We don't know that, because then we go, well, then what? What's what? But that's the question. What is the question? That's not a question, that's the answer. What? Where do you go with that, right? You only have the question, like a Watteau. You should know that the space created in your mind is like a wisp of cloud that dots the vast sky. How much smaller must all worlds within that space be? So when we're talking about this and we're saying these worlds are so small, but to us, when we look out and we talk to the astronomers and they say, oh, well, that faraway cluster of gases is 10 parsecs wide. And you go, well, what's a parsec? A parsec is the distance that light travels in a year at 187,000 miles per second. Imagine how far that would be times 10 or times whatever it is. It's a vast distance. But yet in that, he's saying that how much smaller must all the worlds within that space be? They're very, very small. Because we're speaking about it in relationship to this body and this little tiny mote of dust in this universe. We don't know how many universes there are, but in this universe, we're so infinitesimally small, but so too are all the worlds. How can that be? Because mind is vast, but we cannot know that. Mind can know you because you're a dream within it. Do you have a measurement in your dream? Can you measure? Next time you're in a dream, take out a tape measure and a watch and see if you can measure the distances in there and in relationship to the dream scale versus your scale of your own dream, your waking dream. Huh? Well, I mean, we've got to begin to look at this and see it as it really is. If even one person among you finds the truth and returns to the source, then all of the space in the 10 directions is obliterated. How could the worlds within that space fail to be destroyed as well? Because if we do this, if we practice and we understand just this mind is the Buddha mind, we recognize all others are non-existent. Think about this. Contemplate this. If I know that this mind that is being used to communicate with you is the Buddha mind, then do you not exist? You don't exist. That is the wonderful message. And you go, but I don't want to disappear. I got to go to work tomorrow. You still could go to work. You just realize you're working in a dream. And you go, oh, you don't know my job. My job is not a dream. Well, it's a nightmare, but nevertheless, it's there. And while you're at it, then when you're at the dream, measure the dream and see, how much time it takes in the dream. In relation to what? Indeed, in relation to what? What is what? What is the question? Huh? You see, it gives you nothing to think about. When you cultivate dhyana and attain samadhi, your mind tallies with the minds of the bodhisattvas and the great arhats of the 10 directions who are free of outflows, and you abide in this state of profound purity. So when you really cultivate the practice and you attain this samadhi, your mind is very settled. Your mind is not different than the minds of the bodhisattvas or the arhats or the Buddha, for that matter. They're free of outflows, free of idea that Gilbert exists, free from outflows that Gilbert truly suffers. Now, Gilbert, as a red meatball, suffers. I have a black belt in suffering, just like most of you have a black belt in suffering. But I only suffer in the dream. It's not real. This profoundness, is what drives the Dharma, which drives this body to share with you this Dharma until this body withers away. And then I'm back in. I'm going to re-up for another tour. See how far this body can get me there, or the new body. All kings of demons, ghosts, spirits, and ordinary gods see their palaces collapse for no apparent reason. The earth quakes, and all creatures in the water, on the land, in the air, without exception, are frightened. Yet ordinary people who are sunk in the dim confusion remain unaware of these changes. When we're so caught up in our power, the king of the demons or the ghosts of spirits, ordinary gods, people that have all of these powers and things, they have fear. They have fear of losing that. This is ignorance because they're clinging to those kinds of things. This is a demonic way of looking at things. I'll conclude with this one to help you kind of understand that kind of a fear. Once I had, there was this one fortune teller master that was coming to the United States, and actually he did the feng shui too. So people would pay him thousands of dollars to look at their property to try to arrange it in a way so that the feng shui could be good. But he was very good at fortune telling. And causes and conditions were such that he was a friend of my spouse's father, and then he wanted to meet her. And so we went to a place very close to my house, the Silai Temple. Some of you might know it. And so we were there. We're going to have lunch with this one master, at least talk to him. And he came in and he said, he goes, Gilbert, he says, I hear you have power. And I go, I don't have any power. He goes, yes, I heard. He says, I hear you have power. I go, I don't have power. He says, you can tell fortunes. And so he was kind of baiting me. And I said, no, I can't do that. And so he kept pressing and pressing. Finally, I said, okay, I cannot tell the fortune, but I'll tell you a story. And so I said, there was once this prince who was walking in the forest with his entourage. And he saw this master that was sitting on the smallest branch of the tree, just floating there, meditating on the branch. And the prince, he looked up at the master and he said, oh, master, do be careful, because you are in a precarious position. You have to be careful not to fall from the tree. And and harm yourself. And so the master, he came out of his meditation and he said, quite to the contrary, dear prince, it is you who are in a precarious position due to your greed, hatred, and ignorance. And you are the one that could suffer a great fall. When I finished the story, this fortune teller master was shaking, and he realized that I told him his fortune, but in a very subtle way, but a helpful way for him. But it was very interesting in terms of that. But if you ask me to tell you your fortune, I don't know anything about fortune telling. The thing is that this was what he needed to hear. Now, whether he follows it or not, I don't know, but I hope he took it to heart. Okay, I'll finish with that, and we'll open it up to questions. I know it's a little bit different class, but I think we needed one like this as a break. Any questions? Okay, next week I'm going to go back to the profound Dharma. Yes, Michael.
Maybe I have a question. So recently, this week I came across the story of Noah's Ark, and where God decided to destroy the world, and then Noah kind of so was sincere, and because of this, God allowed the world to continue, and he made the vow to never do it again. So in the kind, this the Shurangama Sutra, this passage you read about the collapsing of the time and space, and it has also this apocalyptic touch to it. So I wonder whether there's a parallel here, and that Buddhism, through the right view, Buddhism's take is different than in a monotheistic religion. Yeah.
The Buddha doesn't make mistakes. Causes and conditions never fail. Everything's created by the mind. God too is illusory. If he was real, how could he make a mistake? This is the difference, because Buddhism is not really a religion, although it's classified as a religion, because where else are we going to put it? We're going to move it over to the philosophical side, right? The philosophers don't want anything to do with Buddhism. They'll study it and talk about it, but they don't want to put it over there, because then they're going to have to deal with it all the time. So the theologists looking at it and scratching their head and going, this is too troublesome. They have too many gods. So it's what do they call it? Like a pan religion, so many different types of deities. In fact, are no deities whatsoever. But it's the ignorance that people see that. But it is, let's say on its surface, one could draw parallels to it, but it doesn't work, simply because the Buddha mind is infallible. Cause and conditions never fail. It doesn't mean that the Buddha is, in terms of what it creates, it doesn't pick and choose in terms of that. Those things come and go, but there's not one supreme deity that is doing it. you know, and perhaps maybe if the world did have a supreme deity that was there, you'd think they'd create a better world than what we have. We reverse engineer everything and trying to get back. And my weird thing of thinking about getting back to the land and setting our soul free, Woodstock. So, but anyway, it's just something that it works in that way, and that is the puzzle that we have to look at and say, well, if the Buddha is so great, how is it that things bad happen? It is not because the Buddha, there is not a supreme deity there. Its cause and conditions never fail. But all of the things that are here, whether we look at it from Yogacara, you know, or from Madhyamika, they're all appearances. There's no reality there. And that was what was the pick on the Theravadins and Abhidharma, at least their Abhidharma, was that there is nothing real here. It can only work in this way. And if you look at it from the philosophical viewpoint, it is only in this way that it works. Your question is an interesting one, but it shows how Buddha mind works and looks at these things, presupposing or predicting what a Judeo-Christian viewpoint might try to challenge Buddhism. But in this way, they would fail, at least on this point. Okay, so good question. Yes, Harry.
Yeah, hi. So I have a question about causes and conditions never fail. So take this scenario. You're in a jewelry store and someone is showing you some diamond rings and you want to see another tray. And as they take the tray away, one of the rings falls off. The salesperson doesn't notice it. So there's a situation, all the causes and conditions have come together. So you could take the ring and put it in your pocket and walk out and hope you don't get caught. Or you could choose a wisdom state and say to the person, hey, you dropped the ring, it should be over there, and you give it back to them and nothing happens. So aren't we are causes and conditions, along with all the causes and conditions we're confronted.
When you say we as corporal bodies, yes. As mind is mind. It's just in a confused state there, and as a result, it's altering the dream for its own benefit. Actually, something very similar to that happened to me yesterday, where I was purchasing something, and I went and got something else that I needed to purchase the item. And so then they showed me the receipt, and I said, something's not quite right here. And he goes, well, what's wrong? I go, because you failed to include this item in your invoice. And he looked and he said, yeah, he did. And so I didn't have to think about it. I didn't have to think about it. It just naturally would be that way. I wasn't thinking, wow, I'm so good. I'm so wise. I'm so nice, you know. It just was, it was as if I was tying my shoe. My shoelace was untied and I needed to tie my shoe. Now, how many times when you go to tie your shoe, you just go, oh, I'll wait till I get here, or, oh, I have to do that, or I have to bend down, or whatever. You know, you just tie your shoe. And everything in the world is just this way. We are not, there comes a level in which one is not concerned with causes and conditions.
Oh, that's what I was asking about. Yeah.
One is in harmony with causes and conditions. So it's a long way to get around
Yeah,
to
yeah,
telling you that.
okay, yeah, that's what I wanted to ask about.
Yeah, so we're no longer thinking in this way. We just realize all of these things are there. So it's harmony. It's wonderful. Because you think about that and go, oh, I hope I can get out of the store. And if I get out of the store, maybe I can make it before they catch me, and I'm going to run. And like, I'm going to like, risk everything for a $35 cord. No, I don't think so. Maybe a $45 cord, but not a $35 cord. But no, it is natural. I thank you for that question, because that's the way it is. It's very interesting. It just is a matter of course. You don't feel, oh, I'm so benevolent. No, that something happened, you correct it. That's it. You're done with it. Now I know why it happened, so I can have something to talk to you about today.
Thank you.
So, but anyway, I think for us to talk to other people, so it's good. I mean, but I hope people understand that what Harry is talking about, because it is very profound. What he's mentioning is just this idea that when we are coursing through this world, but we're coursing through it with deep prajna paramita, with deep wisdom, and that deep wisdom protects us and protects everyone here in terms of what we do. So it's good. Thank you for the question. Anyone else? So any of you, have you had experiences in your meditation before? Or what you think you had experiences in your meditation? And you all just look like, I'm not going to say. I'm not going to put you on the spot. But I wanted to talk to you about this because this happens quite a bit. People come into this and they think that they've had some special experience, and it can be, but only if you let it go. And the moment that you begin to let go of experiences is the moment when you truly are practicing very, very well. If you're sitting there with the idea of attainment, then it won't work. Yeah, Harry.
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, the question is, if you do have an experience like that, I mean, fairly obviously, you don't want to hold on to it. On the other hand, it does show you something about the efficacy of the practice. That things do work. You're not just sitting there twiddling your thumbs. It's very tricky, though, and it's so easy to attach to those things on some cognitive or emotional level, but they do happen.
And yeah, you're right about that. And I didn't get far enough into the volume 8 of the Sheng Sutra where they talk about that, and they say that it's natural for you to have these experiences. And that's what's really important, is that there's a naturalness to that, and it is a sign of progress. And that's something that I wanted to tell you about, because people will say, oh no, don't talk about those things, or don't do this, or don't do that, ooh, bad, and that's baloney, because it's natural. You're naturally going to have some kind of experiences. They may be very small in the beginning. Later, they can become very much stronger. But it's natural that you will have these kinds of experiences. And the Sheng Sutra isn't telling you don't have those. Quite to the contrary, it's saying, if you practice sincerely, you will have these experiences. The only thing is you don't hold on to them as if there's something great. And if you don't hold on to them as something great, your practice will get better. if you hold on to them, then your practice will stop. Just like the one example I was talking to you about, the Lama, the fortune-telling Lama, he just stopped right there. He didn't go any further. What a waste. What a pitiable waste that he didn't have a well-known advisor tell him, you're full of it. You've got to get yourself back on, read the Shattering Sutra or whatever, sometimes if they have that kind of a demonic state, it's hard to explain that to people, depending on, you mean I have to give up fortune telling? Well, yes. No, I don't want to do that. Why would I do that? These people love me. No, that's not the whole purpose of it.
Fearing God over a.
So, in any case, past blessings to Dookie there, in any case, I hope you understand that, that these things, they can happen.
Yeah.
And so I hope that you will practice in the right way. You don't seek these things, but they will come at some point in your practice. Just leave them alone. Don't mess with them. And if you have some kinds of realizations, good. And then check with a well-known advisor. A true well-known advisor is not going to give you a right off the bat, like a golden ticket or a certification that you had something or another. That's not what they do, because you're just messing the person up. You want them to keep that lean and hungry look, and keep practicing rather than trying to rest on their laurels of whatever it is. And too often that gets to be the point, and then people become sedentary in their practice. But if you really, really, push it and push it and push it, then there is nothing that is going to obstruct you from looking in and getting more and more genuine realizations as you go along. So I hope that, so it's not a negative thing. It's not me boohooing and saying, don't do these or don't get this or don't. It's just simply being in accord with the Shattering Sutra, saying, yeah, these things will come, just put them to the side, But if you want to talk to somebody about it, you can talk to people. And I think that's probably the best thing, because if you don't want to talk to people, that means that you have a fear that maybe your realization wasn't as great as you thought it was. And I've seen that happen a lot with people where they just try to shy away, or they'll say, oh, you need to talk to Gilbert, and then, or you need to talk to so-and-so, but they'll just, they won't come around, and they'll rather take a very kind of an arrogant position, about things. And it's unfortunate, because maybe they had a good, deep realization, but they're going to be stuck right there. Okay. Anything else? Yes, Robert, late arrival here.
Sitting on a cushion meditation is usually like maybe an hour or so, but a lot of our day and weeks is off the cushion. Is it reasonable to say, try to incorporate your meditation into, or meditative practice into daily activities, and whatever activities you're doing, treat that activity as a method and practice. For example, as simple as walking, climbing up the stairs, cleaning up the kitchen. Sometimes can be doing fun things like running, doing archery, or doing bonsai, like you're manicuring a bonsai tree. Things of your own interest, but whatever you're doing, treat it as an opportunity to practice a method, but your mind is sitting or you're counting breath, except you're doing something of your interest, because majority of our life time is not on the cushion. So how is it reasonable to say to try to bake our practice in the rest of the time off the cushion? How am I heading the right direction? Or asking the reasonable question.
The thing is that some people are meditation cushion savants. They can sit there all day long, like as if they parked and it's all day parking, so they don't have to feed the meter or anything. They just sit there and they have a well-trained bottom. But when they get up off the cushion, then they're back into samsara. This is not the best practice. But when we get up off the cushion, Robert, it is not simply in the things that we like to do, but in the things that we need to do, that we practice our practice. Dhyana practice is staying in the present moment, being aware of causes and conditions, being aware of body, speech, and mind. Remember, we talked about that and talked about that was the Trikaya, the Nirmanakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Dharmakaya. It is just in this way. So when we're off that cushion, everything that we do, whether you're sitting on the pot or cooking, it sounds kind of bad, from a pot, you are always in the present moment. You're clear. You're in harmony with causes and conditions. This goes back to Harry's question, and that's why he was pointing to that, is that it is not one that we practice in some way, or where we try to mimic things. We are just simply in accord with causes and conditions. Being in accord with causes and conditions is being in accord with mind. And when we see things in this way, then we see clearly this is the practice. We don't have to worry about how good we look doing it. We just do it. Whatever we do, we just do it. So again, add to that doing the laundry, mowing the lawn, washing windows, whatever it is, putting on your socks, all of that stuff just in the present moment and doing it. And that's the practice. That's what you get from sitting on the cushion, is the ability to stabilize the mind, to be able to use it in your everyday life. If you don't use it off your cushion, then causes and conditions, even if you meditate for an hour a day, you've got 23 hours of non-practice. But if every moment you're practicing, then it's not bad. You even program yourself at night to practice while you're there. What do you practice? You just say, I don't want to have any dreams. If I do have dreams, let them be good dreams. Let me know I'm in a dream and I can get out of it when I want to. You're practicing at night. And so that you're very, very calm. You post the 4 guardians around you for protection, but you post the 4 guardians around everyone for protection. You wish that everyone can come to realize the value of the Dharma and realize their true nature. In this way, every single moment is a moment of practice, and this is how we do it. Okay, so just you got a good start, just to keep expanding it to all the things that aren't fun to do. No. So bonsai work is very interesting. I do bonsai work too. And what bonsai work is good is because one has to see many years down the road. If you want to be a fortune teller bonsai, you want to see, and then you hope. Well, sometimes it doesn't work and the plants die. Other times they become looking very beautiful later on. But what you're looking at them much further down the road, just as I'm looking at all of you much further down the road. You're my bonsai project. So I'm trying to mold you into a great bodhisattvas, so that you can bring more people to the Dharma. So keep practicing. I'll continue to water and feed you. And every once in a while, I'll clip your feathers so you don't fly too high. Okay, that's it for tonight. So thank you all for listening. We'll probably go back to the other stuff, but I wanted to do this one as just as a change of pace. So we'll see you next week. Amitofo.
Thank you, Gilbert.
Thank you, Gilbert. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael, for filling in. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Gilbert.
So
Thank you,
we'll see you.
Michael.
Gilbert. Thank you, Gilbert.
Thank you, Gilbert.
You're all welcome. Thank you.
Thank you,
Keep
Michael.
practicing. Bring more people.
Bye.
Call them up. Tell them.
Thank you, Gilbert.
All right.
Thank
Take care. See you all. Bye-bye. All right. Hey, Rick.
Aye.
All right. Okay. Talk to you guys later. I'm off to eat now. My eating Dharma.
Dharma.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Bye, Michael. Thanks.
Hi, Rick. Good to see you.